First question, is there anybody, a non-Polish speaker here? Okay, so, yes? Really? Okay, so because this talk was supposed to be in English, so if you are guys here, okay, it will be in English, if not, we'll go in Polish. Okay, so I give this talk a few times, and this is because I'm trying to advertise this module I write. It's Django GETPAID. It's a broker for payments for Django, as it's the name states it really clearly. And first, the question: maybe how many of you already heard about Django GETPAID before? Okay, quite nice. And how many of you try it? Okay, that's nice. And after the talk, I hope there will be more people that will use it. So, because this is the main idea of my talk, just to advertise it. Okay, so let's go. Okay, so why did I do this Django module, Django application, and what problem I address it to solve? So there was my dream application for handling payments that would be very generic in terms of I could just plug any kind of payment broker there, and I would like to be lightweight, not to implement so big module that would need some very obscure configuration and dependencies, and just to be very easy to integrate with any other app I have. I want a single API to rule them all. So I mean here that I would easily could switching payments brokers while my system is working. So for example, and this kind of approach is very Djangish because we can switch from databases, we can switch caches, backends, everything in Django is configured. So this is something different from, for example, using in application like Django PayPal that is only for PayPal payments. So this is not what I needed. And maybe I could use many payment brokers at once. So why to do this? For example, I have a major issue with one of the biggest Polish payment providers that just stopped working for a week. And that was a problem because you can have payments in your application for a week, and if you are tied with only one payment broker, so we have a problem. And then, if, for example, I could use 3 or 2 of them and have always choose from what kind of payments you want to use for a client. Many of these other payment applications were poorly architectured. So, for example, they didn't use asynchronous calls where needed, and this is also the things I have in mind when designing Django GETPAID. And also, I found that nowadays we have international software as a services and so on. So we should have some multiple currency support. So what's not always also supported in the things I found. So of course, before starting to write my own application, I just Google and try to find out what's there. And actually, there was quite a lot already written Django or Python modules, but none of those meet my requirements stated before. So for example, like there was a Django PayPal, which was only for PayPal, and or Satmo, which was a for me very big application with hard to understand what's going on. But there is some one of the project called Mamona. I liked the idea, but I decided that I will rewrite this as a completely new module because there was some architecture failure that I thought it could be for me easier to just write it from the scratch, just reusing some code base from Mamona, and that's how the Django GETPAID is here. So what is the current status of the project? So the code is in version 1 dot something, I think 6 right now, which means it's completely production ready, and me and few other people I know use it already in production. It's working. It has a very detailed documentation, so if you could find it, you can read everything what's here and even more from it. So the learning curve and joining this project with your system will be easy. There is a support for multiple backends right now, and I think most of best popular Polish backends are already covered. So let we mention .pay and PayU, and maybe Transferuj PL and Prelegent. So there also are some commitments from other countries. So somebody commit MOIP for Brazilian payments and PayMill. And even I wrote to .pay and Transferuj PL that there is this application, and they put it on their official site that it's for Django, so it's somehow supported, I think. Okay. How to get it? Because this talk will be like to give you a very comprehensive tutorial how to easily integrate the Django GETPAID into your own projects. So of course it's on pip. You can also install it from GitHub, and the documentation is on the read docs. And there's 7 simple integration steps for that. So the obvious thing is to just add the GETPAID application to Django. And then here is this Djangish thing. So we have the GETPAID backends settings that you can define all the modules that will be enabled as payment brokers in this application. And please see there is a full Python path here, importable, so you can write your own custom backends and don't even put it in the GETPAID itself, so you can just import it from anywhere in your code. And because the backends are also the self Django applications, so they also need to be added to installed apps. This is because of some statics and URLs that they can provide. This makes the implementations of the backends easier. So there is a pattern that you just, after it, defining GETPAID backends, just append it to the installed apps. So remember about it. And then you have the configuration dictionary. So for each backend, this is similar to databases right now in Django. So for each backend, you can define a dict that is a very custom for this backend. So in PayU, you will define some 2 authorization keys, some ID, some auth key, and other options, and this will differ from the backend to backend, so you just need to see the documentation, what kind of things you need to define on each backend. And after it, you need to include the GETPAID URLs. And the nice thing is the GETPAID will automatically discover all custom URLs from all backends. So if the backend exposes some URLs for communicating with the broker, so they will be already here, included here, so you don't need to do any more with the URLs. It just works from the box. And here is the first thing to stay a little longer on the slide. So what is the way of connecting with your application? So the big issue with the GETPAID was to make 0 assumption about your code. So that should allow you to incorporate the GETPAID with any kind, even of the third-party code that was never ever even designed to be somehow used with GETPAID. So how was it achieved? First of all, there is some tricky thing used to build a payment model which stores the payments. So it configures in the runtime the true foreign key to your any kind of order object you have. So maybe let's start from the order object. So you need to have any kind of any name of the Python model, Django model that represents your order somehow. So it could be named as you wish, and it could look as you wish. So there is completely no assumption what is the API or design of this model. So then you can connect this this model to the GETPAID through this register to payment. method of GETPAID, and then you see you can give here a class and some other things. And after that, Django GETPAID will make a payment model class, which will be generated dynamically in runtime, which will have a real foreign key to this your order, so you avoid using content type in Django. And this was one of the idea, because content type was a little confusing idea for me, but it's not really, now it's not really, so I think I will re-implement or refactor this thing in Django 2.0 to use the content type at least, but right now it's like that. This also makes some troubles to use, but I will show you some insight about what kind of troubles you use making dynamic Django models. And then the typical thing that you could have in your order is defined by Django itself. So you could have a get absolute URL defined. This would help a lot with a GETPAID, because it uses as a standard URL to redirect after an order completed action, and to have some Unicode defined. So if you could have a name for the order, it will be also gladly used as a name in, for example, payment transactions. So what the client is paying for. So this will be generated here. So, but those are the standard things you are doing in Django. So maybe they will be implemented anyway. Okay. So how do we know the logic behind the order, that you have a custom order? So how do we know if the order have some sub items? So the models many-to-many or one-to-many relation. So how do we know how to calculate the amount that this order should be charged? So all those kind of thing was moved from potential method of the order to the listeners. So you just define the signal listener, Django signal listener, and put all the logic here. So this is like a query signal. So there is a new payment query which sends you an order and sends you the payment object. And your job is to fill the payment with some predefined fields like amount and currency. And it's up to you how you define, if this little snippet of code, how to deal with your order. So do you, for example, read just some attributes from this order object, like here? It's very simple, straightforward. So just copy order total to amount and order currency. Or maybe you would like to call some method that was, for example, calculate order total, and it will iterate of all the items you have in this order. So that depends on your implementation, on your own, even on the third-party code, and you can put this code here, and this way you have this zero assumption about how this object, order object, need to look like. Okay, and what do you do on successful payment? So there is also a listeners for when the payment is completed in one or the other way, and in fact when just a status change. So you are notified that some instance of payment have changed the status from old status to new status, and this method should be idempotent. So it means that, for example, it could be called many times that the status was paid, and right now it's also paid. And this is because how brokers, payment brokers work. They sometimes send you multiple status changes requests, and you need to just get it and do something in your code and to think about it. So in this code, you need to be sure that, for example, you do not evaluate your order or ship your order twice or 3 times. So the simple if will do the trick. And also here in this code, you can define all the logic needed, what to do with your order if the payment was accepted. So again, you can just run some method, accept the order, or you can put some status, whatever. again, zero assumption about the order object, and GETPAID doesn't need to know what exactly to run. So you just define it in the listener. Okay, so how to expose the payment form in your application? So GETPAID will gives you a payment method form, which will also dynamically generate a payment method form for your application. And this generation is made on currency, because when you give this self-object currency argument, it filters all the backends, which kind of backend can accept the payments in this currency, and it filters out all these backends and then expose only those backends. So it gives you a list of the backends that could deal with this currency. So the only thing, if you have some, for example, a view of your order, and your template already know that this order is not paid, so it will need to show you some a form for making this payment. So you can easily extend the get context data of such order, put this generated form in the context, and then show it to the user, and everything will be pre-configured. And because also you gives the payment method form information about what kind of order you are trying to get paid off. So everything will be pre-configured, and you can easily just click pay button, choose the payment method, click pay button, and will be redirected to the payment broker, just like that. And here is the simple, so just CRF token, but this is really simple. Only thing is the action should be put to the GETPAID new payment URL, so you can find it easily in the documentation, and it will create a new payment for you for this kind of payment methods. Okay, so that's it. If in terms of shipping the Django GETPAID with your code, as you see, there's 7 steps, but they are not very complicated. So we can say it's quite easy to use it. And so how does the payment processors are built? So this backends, how does the backends are built? So if you want to write your own backend, and I think you will, because for example there is no PayPal support, so I am kindly looking for any contribution for PayPal in the Django GETPAID if you want to write one. So here are some insight what kind of writing it would be. So you need to define, of course, the backend, as I said previously, is a Django application. And this Django application provides basically a payment processor class. And all the other things depends on how complex is the payment broker on the other side. So it's very simple, and it will only, for example, query you with some HTTP request that something is changed, or is it super complex, like for example PayPal or PayU, that require all the subsequent events that need to occur, that they notify you, you need to request them, and then you have some answer, and then you need to accept this payment. So there is plenty of kinds of activities that need to be done. So you can this is very custom, and there is no assumption how you do this here, so all is in this code. One of the things that you need to implement anyway is the getGateway URL method of payment processor. So this method is a method that will know how to generate a redirect URL to the payment broker, and yeah, that's it. Some payments brokers only accept post methods, so there is also support for that in Django GETPAID. It shows you intermediate HTML page that will fire up the post from the hidden form. But in the straightforward way, when you use get method, it will just, Django GETPAID will just redirect your browser to this URL. And the payment processor need to define a list, which is a backend accepted currency, which is an iterable of all currency that are supported by your payment processor. And this should be in the ISO standard, so like a PLN, EUR for euro. This is used for this filtering in forms when you generate payment form. And as I said, now because you have the backend is a standalone Django application, you can introduce your own views. So, for example, if you need a view that need to be requested from outside, for example, the payment broker will call your HTTP view and to, for example, notify you that some payment ID have changed status. So you need to expose, so you need to write a view, and then you need to, of course, configure URLs in this backend application to expose this view to the world. So just works like a standard Django application. What's tricky? You can have your own models, of course, because this is a Django application itself. So, for example, if your payment broker needs some additional information, for example, for each payment, you need to store some super session IDs that are transferred in both ways, and any kind of information that GETPAID doesn't store by itself. You can easily do this by just providing your own custom model, and these models are can be also will be connected one-to-one to the payment. So they will just like they will behave like an extension of the payment model itself. And of course, backend should provide some management script that will help the user to do the configuration steps. And what kind of configuration steps I have in mind? So here is the configuration steps for the PayU backend. So for example, PayU requires to set up some set of URLs, like a success URL, which is the URL that will be invoked when the payment is successful. Failure is failure. And online is a URL where the PayU will sends you an information about payment changes. So those two first is when where the user will be redirected after the payment, and this one is just some backend call that something has changed and you need to do some backend processing about this payment. And then to do these things easily, if you provide the manage PayU configuration command, these links will be just generated based on your site's framework. So here, if you put the domain, and all the stuff here will be generated. You just copy and paste it to the configuration. Also, there is, for example, some custom thing on request signing. So I highly advise you to turn on PayU request signing, that to be sure that the payment you are generating, nobody will change, for example, amount and give you some partial paid in return. So you can also configure it, and so if this option is on in your configuration, you have information for that. You should also turn it on in the PayU configuration panel. So those kind of things you need to provide when you're writing your own backend. So how does this payment looks in terms of some composition of some diagram? So we start here from, just to give you some overview what's happening in the system. So here you have the order view, which will have in template this payment form. You remember we generated from the currency. This is the allowed payment methods that are defined in your system based on your configuration, based on your currency. So user selects the payment method and click pay, and then here this form invokes GETPAID new payment view, this view does two things. So it just asks the payment processor that was chosen to what kind of URL for the broker should be used. Then we'll be redirecting. If this is paused, there will be one intermediate step, as I said. Then user is in the payment broker system. He will do whatever it needs to do this transaction, and then he will be redirected from the payment broker system in case of PayU to this success view or failure view, and then your broker will by default will redirect this straight to the GETPAID fallback view, which will redirect it again to the order view. So your order view can have a template that knows when, for example, payment is failure or accepted. So it will show you a message and show you again a payment form or not. That depends on the context of what happened. Yeah. So and this cycle is done almost automatically in GETPAID with it's supported from the GETPAID itself. Only here you need to know what to show to the user. And at the bottom of this cycle, there is this online view call that, for example, in this scenario, the PayU will call your system in the background. That's the payment has changed the status. For example, this could be for after about, for example, 2 minutes or 3 hours, if we consider credit cards. So there could be more here. For example, in case of simple payment brokers, you could after receiving this information could just change the payment status, or you need to just invoke some other asynchronous tasks. Like in PayU, there is salary tasks that are invoking all the stuff that we are accepting. We are retrieving information from the broker again, and then accepting this payment if we save this in our database, and so on and so on. Okay, so as I said, payments are stored in payment model. So just to remind you, there is a payment model which has this real foreign key, and it's registered to your order class. So this involves dynamic runtime payment class generation, which is evil, I must say. And this is a troublemaker because of plenty of things, like, for example, migrations issues. But on the other hand, you don't use this content type. So what other assumptions was made when designing Django GETPAID? So there are the payment statuses, and I thought, okay, we will never try to do all payment statuses that are possible in broker systems. So, for example, plenty of broker payment system has intermediate statuses, like the payment is started, the payment is just after started, the payment is checked by our employee, the payment was checked, the payment is now being involved, or something, and then the payment is successful. So plenty of payment brokers have their own payment statuses, and what I think is what kind of statuses are relevant from the view of our system. So there is, I think, those 5 which is highly relevant. So there is new when this you just generate the payment, and it could be in progress when user actually started doing the payment and it was redirected to this broker, and then it could be one of the 3. Or the payment failed, or the payment was paid, or the payment was paid partially paid. So, for example, there are some brokers that don't give you a possibility to lock the payment amount. For example, I think this kind of thing is in PayPal. So user can always change the amount that he wants to transfer. And then, for example, what to do with those kind of payments. So you could not accept it. So if your broker will do like that, or you can just accept it, but it's partially paid, it will be specially marked in your system. The order will not be accepted because there are insufficient funds on this order, but you will be somehow notified about it. And this big assumption is to you as a provider of the backend is the design this decision. How could you map all the payment statuses from the broker to our GETPAID? So, for example, for us, if there are some intermediate statuses of the broker side, for example, the payment is checked by our employee, so this will, in our system, be just in progress, yeah, because for our side of view, the payment is in progress. So, those kind of mapping you need to do, and I think this simplifies a lot managing statuses in Django GETPAID from our perspective. So okay, there are. I will be finishing right now, but just give you some few clues, insights about troubles and problems that you could encounter when making GETPAID work in your project. So first of all, what about self migrations? Because everybody use somehow migrations. It's obvious, and you are not able to use migrations out of the box like in any other project because the GETPAID introduces this dynamic generation of model. And actually, you can use the solve out of the box because the solve provides a very nice configuration feature that many don't know. It's the solve migration model, so you can define your own migrations for the project for any kind of app you have, and those migrations will be kept with your project rather than kept with this third-party application. So we as the Django GETPAID doesn't provide you ready-to-use migrations like other projects, but you can generate those migrations in your code because of this foreign key to your order. And if you define only that, for example, the GETPAID itself need to be stored in some your project migrations path in GETPAID, and you will do migration schema migrate -- auto or whatever. It will put all the migrations file there, and then you can customly, okay, then you can customly run those migrations on your production, and everything will work. So the only thing you need to be aware is to look at the changelog when you update the Django GETPAID and see if there is information about you should do your migration from this change because something has changed in the model of payment. Yeah, and then you just do this migration by yourself. So that's the solution. And other tricky things. So, for example, as I said, PayU is one of the most overcomplicated, but still, I think, quite of secure payment methods. And PayU, for example, require you to send the IP of the client that will do this payment, that you are redirecting this client. And this makes you a little trouble if you don't remember that your Django will be possibly behind some web server, some proxy or whatever, and you will have remote ADDR set to localhost in this scenario, or other IP of other hosts in your infrastructure. So this is very simple. This could be very simple overwritten using some Django middleware, and I think this snippet of code is even copied from Django documentation itself. So this is a ready-to-use snippet. Usually there is a HTTP forwarded for header in HTTP request that is set by your proxy or web server, or you can configure it to be set it, and then you can just overwrite remote ADDR to this IP, and you will have this IP address of the client easily. But if you don't remember, you will be, for example, there will be error from PayU, and they will not accept any payments, and this could be a problem for you if you don't know about it. And the tricky thing too, there is a quite a lot of plenty of kind of redirections behind Django GETPAID. So when the user returned, you remember there was a redirection to the success view, and from success view to Django fallback view, and so on and so on. And if you use HTTPS, you will possibly notice that and the redirects are defined in Django code only relatively. So Django need to make an educated guessing what kind of protocol you were using in the last request, and then redirect you to the same kind of protocol. So, for example, if your page is running on HTTP, so that you should be redirected to HTTP, but in case of HTTPS, all redirections should also be done using the protocol HTTPS. And this is a problem because, again, if you are running your code behind a proxy, caching or web server or whatever, and you will possibly do it on your production, your call will be, the call that Django will see will be the call from your, for example, localhost web server, which will be, for example, in HTTP. So it will not be able to do this educated guess and not correctly redirect you to HTTPS, which will introduce a problem with security in your application. So to, again, a quick look to the Django documentations, it's all solved there. I think there is everything in Django documentation. So you just need to configure your web server to use header X-forwarded proto. And then you know that the protocol used originally in this request was HTTPS, even if we forward it to the Django WSGI server using HTTP. And then Django will do this educated guess and do these redirections correctly with proper protocol. So yeah, that's it. If you want to contribute, please use GitHub, and pull requests are very welcome. We need all other backends you can write. For example, PayPal. I would like to see that. So yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions?
Oh no.
No worries. I have a question. How did you test this this register method? Because it's quite difficult, I think, to know when Django set up the models. And so I would imagine that first you want to check if your model is already read by Django or not, if all the stuff works correctly, and things like that. I tried to find the way how to test it in Django, but I couldn't. Can you tell me something how to do it?
Okay, I must say, though this pattern was one of the things I borrowed from Amona, and it was working there, so I didn't think more about it. So if you just, because you are asking about
this register.
This register to payment. So
exactly.
I think it's not really. I saw those kind of things in many other applications that you register to indexing or registering to something, the object. So if you do this just after the class the declaration in models Py, it will work. I never thought it could not work. So never encounter any problem with that. So can help you.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
I don't know if it's implemented in any way, because we have to actually add it in to for the core functionality of GETPAID to be able to pass to the backend, to the actual payment provider information. For example, which payment option was chosen by user. You know, if you have a like either PayU or .pay or whatever, and you want to present a screen with a choice of payment, like you want to pay via wire transfer or for some certain bank or credit card.
Okay, so you are asking about choosing the payment method in the payment broker.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And that there is no option for that in at least I haven't seen one in the database structure of GETPAID itself. We had to add it in. I don't know. Just want to ask you if it's somewhere in there and we didn't find it.
No. Okay. This was another of my assumption that this should be very easy to use and easy in architecture application. So what is only allows you is to choose a payment broker, and then all other processing stuff should be done on the side of the broker.
Yes,
so,
but this is one of the variables you are passing to the broker. You are passing like currency, you are passing amount, you are passing all that stuff, and so choice of the option of payment is actually one of the variables that has to be passed through. And many of the payment broker offer this kind of.
So, for example, there are some payment brokers. Actually, I saw when we was implementing them. For example, they require to provide in the URL the name and the first name and the last name of the user, which is not defined anywhere here. So,
but that can be actually done through what we already have, because you have the URL generation and you have the object that gets the user data from the database via Signal, so that can be actually achieved.
So,
what I'm asking is possible through what's implemented, because we had to add in another field to the database for the GETPAID to have this actually being carried over.
I'm not sure if I understand correctly, but if you want to just call the payment broker and you need any other informations, then you use this kind of things. So there is some signal query that will and you can provide it here. All this additional information you can provide by the signal query. But if you want to store information in the GETPAID, actually there will be no other place but only this backend model. So if you have some model that is custom for the backend, as I said, you can do this. Then you can store all kind of information that is relevant for this kind of specific backend. But payment in general don't want to be aware about those informations, because this is out of scope, a very simple model of payment.
But the data set received by this listener is actually the fields are preset by GETPAID.
Which in payment amount?
No, it's what data is being actually transferred from when you implement the backend on your side and you create a new payment, and you use the form from GETPAID. You create a new form. The fields that are created are like preset.
Yes. Okay.
So you cannot input into that fields there like a custom field unless you modify the core.
I think right now, if you would like to modify the behavior of payment form, it's the case of you can do it easily.
Okay, thank you.
Can you go back to the IP code where you get the IP, the HTTPS?
Here?
Yeah. Django has a setting for using x-forwarded for. It's either true or false. By default, it's false.
Okay.
And they don't like to try accept it. It should be explicitly set. If my payment is HTTPS, then I set it to true. I use that IP, and I take the sure that it's set by my server and not by some attacker, for example, setting it by its own. And in some configs, I think Unicorn and Nginx, IP can be on even a third keyword. I don't have the code now, but it can be even somewhere else. So it's the IP should be somehow configurable, explicit, so the user of this module knows that the IP will be correct, or suddenly it will be localhost.
Okay, thanks.
Because if you get it this way and you don't have a proxy, someone can add proxy
and insert this IP address.
Yeah.
So this is security issue.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. Why do you think that re-implementing this connection between payment and order with content types is a good idea?
Why is it a good idea?
Yeah. Why do you want to do it? Because you mentioned that you want to do this.
Because the content type is bad, especially when you need to query a lot. The queries that are sorry. Yeah, and the querying in payments is very simple and straightforward. So you only need to query one payment object, and then you need to get this order object and do it with something. So as I see how this payment model is used in GETPAID, there will be no performance issue on using content type. That's what I was afraid on the beginning. So this is the reason I think, and the content type is super nice in terms of dealing with all this SOAF and so on, because you don't need to do these tricks anymore with custom migrations. So if there is no problem with efficiency, there is no reason to keep it like that. But it's like that for the version 1, and I don't have a spare time to do the refactoring, so it will be for a moment, I think, like that.
Okay, thank you everybody. Thank you, Krzysztof.
So one more question. So how many of you want to use GETPAID right now after the presentation? No one. One person. Yes, is a very great. 2 persons. Great success. Thank you.